everyone. This is Karen from Blue Rooster Farm, and today I'm in the kitchen, but I'm not in front of the camera. I have a special guest for you today, and he is in my kitchen to make his famous biscuits. So let me introduce you to my son, Drew.
Hello, everybody.
And he is just home for a few more hours. He came home for the weekend. His brother's headed this way as he goes through, so he's going to stop by, and we're going to have dinner. So this is kind of impromptu. We're having baked chicken and potatoes and some jalapeno poppers, and I thought biscuits would be really good. And I asked him if he would make his biscuits for us, and he said yes. So he came in from fishing, and I said, "Get in front of the camera. I'm going to tape you."
I wasn't ready for it.
So this is all the spur of the moment, but he's got some really delicious biscuits that I think you're going to enjoy. So let's see how he makes them.
Okay, I'm going to show you guys how to make ricotta buttermilk biscuits. This is a recipe that I found and then kind of tinkered with to get it just the way I wanted it. The goal was to make fluffy and tall biscuits that were really moist inside and just melt in your mouth. Okay, so first off, we're going to mix the dry ingredients together. And we're going to use 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Doesn't have to be super exact or anything, just get it pretty roughly around the right amount. Once we have that in the mixing bowl, we're going to mix 1 tablespoon of sugar, just regular white sugar. Next is going to be baking powder and baking soda, and these are going to be the leavening agents that will make the biscuit rise and nice and fluffy. So for baking powder, we're going to do 1 tablespoon. And then for baking soda, it's a little bit of a stronger taste. We're going to do 1 teaspoon. And on baking soda, you want to make sure that it's not all clumped up, because sometimes it'll get clumpy and it won't get mixed in very well with your dry ingredients, and you'll end up biting into a big clump of baking soda, and that does not taste very good, trust me. And baking soda is what is going to react with the buttermilk, and that's going to form bubbles and give it more air and more of a rise to it. So once we get the baking soda mixed in, we're going to do salt. And for salt, it's going to be usually it's going to be 1 teaspoon, but since we're using unsalted butter, I'm going to do 1.5 teaspoons of salt. And this is just coarse salt, just table salt. And then I think that is all the dry ingredients. I'm going to go ahead and mix those in real quick. Just get them so they're mixed together, especially mixed in with the flour at the bottom. And once all the dry ingredients are mixed, I'm going to add my butter and my lard. A lot of recipes only call for one or the other. I kind of like to do a mixture of both because butter gives a little bit of a better flavor, but lard gives a softer texture. So I like to have the best of both worlds. And when it comes to adding your fats to it, you want them to be pretty cold, even frozen, because that keeps those clumps together, and it will melt once you put it in the oven, and that'll give you some really nice flaky layers. You don't want it to be melted. It's really soft. So to add in the butter, I'm going to slice it up into cubes, cut twice, along the long ways, and then turn it over and then cut it twice again, just with a somewhat of a sharp knife. And then I'm going to just chop perpendicular with it here. And that's going to get it where it'll break up into nice little fine cubes. And I'm going to just kind of sprinkle those in to the dry ingredients. And that, the reason why I chop it into cubes is because here in a second I'm going to take this tool and I'm going to chop the butter into the dry ingredients. And if it already starts out at smaller pieces, it makes it less work when using that tool. And I guess I didn't say the amount of butter, but 1 stick or half a cup of butter. And then when it comes to lard, you can either use we actually have like pork lard here, or you can use Crisco or shortening or anything like that. This pork lard is going to taste a lot better, but both will work. And when it comes to the amount for the lard, I want to have roughly 1/4 of a cup. I'm just going to eyeball it here, but it's probably best to measure it out. And that looks about right to me.
We had somebody that just came in. Hey, Landon. Do you want to get in front of the camera?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I knew I smelled something bad. Okay, so now once I got the butter and the lard mixed in, I'm going to take this tool. I guess it's a pastry cutter. I was going to call it a butter chopper, but and I'm going to work the fats into the dry ingredients. And I'm going to continue to do this till it all forms like pea-sized lumps. And just keep going until you kind of get the finer consistency that we're looking for. Make sure you get on the bottom, get it all mixed in. Like there, we're getting pretty close. There's a few larger ones still left, chunks, and so I'm going to do a little bit more, but we should be good here in a second. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. Everything seems to be incorporated in real small little chunks, and that'll melt in really nicely when we put the dough into the oven. Okay, so now that we got that all incorporated, it's time for the wet ingredients. And a lot of recipes just call for buttermilk, but I have found that if you mix ricotta in as well, it makes the biscuits really, really moist and really, really soft inside, which is what I really was going for. So right here we have whole milk ricotta. Some of it you can use half, like 2% or skim. It doesn't matter, just as long as you have some type of ricotta. Usually it's in the dairy section at most stores, I think, grocery stores, I think. And I'm going to do 1 cup of ricotta. Just kind of mash it down so I can tell where we're at. And that's about a cup. And then I'm going to add 3/4 cups of buttermilk on top of this. And the reason why I put them together is because I like to mix the ricotta and the buttermilk together before I pour it in. That way you get the same consistency throughout. You don't get chunks of ricotta. So I'm going to aim for the 1 cup and 3/4 mark. Looks to be pretty close. And it's not necessarily rocket science, so if you're a little off, it's okay. And once I get them both together, I'm going to stir them up and mix them so they're all the way mixed together evenly and kind of form a thicker slurry, I guess you could call it. And if you don't have buttermilk, you can do just regular milk and add a little bit of white vinegar to it, and that'll give you the same reaction with the baking soda.
And the stuff that he had in his jar right there was the homemade buttermilk that I did a video on, where you just take regular grocery store cultured buttermilk and use that as a starter, and then you can continue to make it and never have to buy buttermilk again. So if you want to see how that's done, it's on my go to my Blue Rooster Farm YouTube page, and the buttermilk video is on there.
And once I got it all mixed together, you'll see it kind of forms a smooth consistency, no clumps of ricotta. That way it all get mixed evenly into the dough. And I'm going to go ahead and make a little bit of a well in my dry ingredients here to pour the wet into. And I'm just going to pour that into the center. I'm not going to put it all in at once because I don't want to get it too wet. I want the dough to be firm and still have a good consistency. I don't want it to be real sloppy and everything, so I'm going to mix in a little bit at a time. And to mix in, I found that just a good sized fork works about as good as anything. Stir this in. And I just have enough liquid in here for the dough to come together and form a ball. Okay, it's still a little dry, so I'm going to add in some more. I want to get all that dry ingredient off of the bottom and mixed in. And you'll have to put a little bit of force on it because the dough does get kind of sticky and hard to stir. And it might make a mess, but that's okay. Okay, I think that is about the right consistency. I have just a little bit more left over, but I used pretty much all of my liquid there. You don't want to overmix it, and just get it to where it forms consistency where you can still handle it. It's not just sticking everywhere. It's not too runny, but it's all sticking together. So that's what we're looking for. Next, we're going to roll it out and form our biscuits. So we have a cutting board here, countertop or any flat surface that's clean will work. I'm going to put a little bit of flour on the bottom just to keep things from sticking. Spread it out. And then coat my hands with flour so it doesn't stick to my hands. And I'm going to get this dough. Make sure I have all the dry stuff kind of soaked up by it. Now we're just going to flatten it out. I'm going to go for kind of probably somewhere like a 9x11 paper-sized flat rectangle here. It's not going to be perfect, but just flatten it out with my hands. You can use a dough roller if you'd like, but I usually go with my hands just because I can control it and shape it better that way. Okay, so I kind of got a somewhat of a rectangular shape here. And then I'm going to go ahead and fold one side into the middle, fold the other side into the middle, and then fold over the opposite way. And what I'm doing here, and then I'm going to flatten it all out again. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating those layers for the biscuit dough. So that's going to make the biscuit really flaky, and it's going to just fall apart after they're cooked and melt in your mouth. So I'm going to flatten it out into another square, kind of rectangular shape. And usually I just get it to where it's probably quarter to half an inch thick, just not too thin or anything. Just, I said, it's not, you don't have to be real precise with it. And I'm going to fold it again, flatten it out a little bit more, and fold it over. And as I'm doing this, it's picking up all the flour, so you will have to add some more flour probably as you incorporate it. And usually you can do that another time, but you don't want to work the dough too much where it gets tough. And the more you work it out, the warmer the dough is getting and your butter and lard are getting. So try to keep it, as short a time as possible, so that way the dough is still chilled when you put it in the oven. So when I get ready to cut, I want to get it probably, how thick do you think that is? Quarter, half an inch maybe?
Half an inch probably, yeah.
So go for about a half an inch thickness. If you want them thicker, you can do that.
It may even be a little thicker than a half an inch. So.
Yeah. And I'm going to put a little flour on the top. That's just going to keep my biscuit cutter from sticking too badly. Just try to get it kind of even so everything's the same thickness. Okay, so then I'm going to start on the edge and the corners, and I'm going to push straight down with it. You don't want to twist because that will seal the edges and you will not get as good of a rise. You'll not get the layers. So just straight down and straight up.
I think you've got about an inch because it looks like it goes to the top
Oh,
edge
top?
of that
Okay.
metal thing. So let's say an inch thick.
And just go around the edge, trying to waste as little as possible. And then there's one in the middle here. And I'm just going to pull away the ones that I've cut out. And sometimes they'll stick a little bit. And they might not always look quite the prettiest, but these look pretty good actually.
You want to hold one up?
Yeah. Like that.
Very pretty. You can see little air pockets in there.
And that's the buttermilk reacting with the baking soda. Putting those air bubbles in. So I'm going to take all my scraps. I'm going to ball them back up. And I'm going to roll these back out to make some more, to cut some more out. That way we don't waste any of the dough. Usually the first ones you cut out, those are going to be your best ones because you've worked them the least and they'll have less flour that you're putting into them. Like these, I'm adding more flour to get them to flatten out, not stick, so they'll have a little more flour in them. Maybe not quite as good a flavor, not quite as good as rise, but they'll still be really good. And for the scraps, I don't get too worried about folding it a lot. Just fold it over a few times and get it so you have a few layers in there where you can cut some more biscuits out. But I'm not gonna, it's not big enough for me just to do the same folding I did on the first one. Get it to about the thickness you want. Got 3 more there. These ones don't look quite as pretty, but at the end of the day, it's the taste that matters. So they should be fine. We still have a few more scraps left. Probably enough for 1 or 2 more here. Fold it over a few times. Get those layers. Cut. And the last bit here, I'm just going to form with my hands, and we'll call that one good. Now that we got them all cut out, they seem to all look really good. So after we get them all cut out, we're going to get a nice big baking sheet like this. And this is an insulated one, so it should protect the bottom really well and keep the bottom from burning. And that's really nice to have, but you can use any kind of baking sheet you have. You just want to be a little more careful if they're not insulated. Before I put the biscuits on the sheet, I want to oil the pan a little bit. That'll keep them from sticking. So I'm going to do that real quick here. You don't have to put a lot on, and you can just use regular cooking spray. And I'm just going to kind of spread it all around. This isn't going to add any flavor or anything. It's just going to allow for the biscuits to come off the sheet easily when they're done. Once I got it oiled, we'll go ahead and place the biscuits. And I just want to space them out so that the way they're not touching, and they will rise whenever they bake in the oven and expand some. So you want to give them enough room that they'll be able to expand and still get some air between them. And I just want to have a good enough spacing where I can fit them all on in one time. And it looks like I chose about right. We have one left. Just going to scoot these down. And our last one, put it right there. This way they'll expand. They should have all enough room. And a lot of the expansion is going to be up. They're going to puff up, and they won't go out quite as much. So this looks pretty good.
Oven temperature?
For the oven, we're preheating it to around 390 degrees. Anywhere between 375 to 400 should be fine. The hotter it is, it's going to, puff up quicker, and you want to get it hot enough where the butter doesn't have time to really melt. It just kind of absorbs in, puffs up, but you don't want it too hot where you're burning the tops or the bottoms or anything like that. So I kind of try to go somewhere in between 400 and 375.
Do you know how long it usually takes?
I do not know the exact time.
We can time it and see. Different ovens are different. So.
Yes, and we have a convection bake oven, so that a little bit different airflow, and it affects the cooking time a bit. But usually, I would say probably 13 to 15 minutes. But you just want to kind of keep an eye on it and see how your oven cooks them the first time, and just remember that, and it should be pretty consistent after that. But it all depends on the thickness of your biscuits. The thicker you cut them out, the longer they're going to take. And you might want to watch the tops on those ones a little bit and set the temperature just a little bit lower. But if you keep them around the size, they should be done in about 15 minutes, I think.
Okay, so how about we bring them back when they come out of the oven?
Yep.
And do a taste test.
That sounds good to me. I can't wait.
Okay, we'll be right back.
So it's been about 20 minutes. My time was a little bit off, but 20 minutes and they look like they're done. I'm using this fancy pot holder here that was given to my mom by Landon's girlfriend, Nora. Shout out to her. You're welcome, Nora. I'm going to take these out. Try not to burn myself. And you can see that they're a nice golden brown on top. And is there somewhere I can set them?
Yeah, set them on the big plates here. Didn't put a pot holder out. Sorry. We're getting ready to eat, so.
Yes. Multitasking.
Yes.
So as you can see, they're nice and just have a little bit of a golden on top. The bottom, nice and golden brown, not burnt. And I'm going to choose one to break open. We'll see if it's cooked all the way through. Here we go. You see that flaky layer. Open it up.
Oh, those look good.
Perfectly in half. Not doughy, but very soft and moist, and those are very hot.
Get you a knife and put some butter on one. Do we need Landon in here to do a taste test?
We might.
All right, so we've got another special guest. He did get in the front of the camera as long as there's food involved.
He doesn't know much, but he knows how to eat. So. Which one would you like? The butter is melted perfectly, and which one would you like? Go with this one. That's the one I wanted. Cheers. Cheers. Very soft and flaky. They turned out pretty good. They're delicious.
They look delicious. Well, thank you guys for doing the video with me.
Good work, brother.
Really appreciate it. And I hope all of you get a chance to make these wonderful biscuits. They have been our favorites since he started making them. And I think you will really like this recipe. And once again, if you like this video, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate that. And don't forget to like and share and leave a comment if you have any questions. Thanks a lot and have a great day, and I hope to see you back here soon.
Bye, everybody.